Somewhere in a box in your parents' attic, there's a report card, a certificate, maybe a photo of you holding a trophy or a ribbon. And underneath it, in someone's handwriting, are words like gifted, exceptional, destined for great things. You didn't ask for that label, but you got it anyway. And if you're watching this video right now, there's a good chance that label has quietly become one of the heaviest things you carry. Here's the strange part nobody warns you about. Being told you're going to be something special when you're 7 or 10 or 15 doesn't set you up for success. For a lot of people, it sets up a slow-motion collapse that doesn't even look like a collapse from the outside. You're not homeless, you're not in crisis, you're just stuck. Watching other people who were never called gifted, never had a teacher pull your parents aside to say, "This one's different." Watching those people build careers, families, lives that move forward while you sit frozen, waiting for the right moment, the certain outcome, the guaranteed win before you'll let yourself try. If that sounds familiar, stay with me. Because what's happening to you has a name, it's been studied, and more importantly, it can be undone. Let's start with what actually happened to you, because understanding the mechanism is the first step out of it. When you were young, things came easily. You read early. You understood math faster than the other kids. You didn't need to study much, and you still got the A. Adults noticed, and they praised you, not for the effort you put in, because there wasn't much effort involved, but for the outcome itself. You're so smart. You're a natural. That kind of praise feels good in the moment, but the psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades researching what it actually does to a developing mind. Her research found that children praised for intelligence rather than effort or process become more likely to avoid challenges, because a challenge introduces the possibility of failure, and failure would contradict the identity they've been handed. A child praised for effort thinks, "I worked hard and it paid off, so I should work hard again." A child praised for being smart thinks, "I am smart, and smart people succeed effortlessly, so if I struggle or if I fail, what does that make me?" That's the trap. Somewhere along the way, your intelligence stopped being something you have and started being something you are. It became your identity, and identities feel like they need to be protected, not tested. So, without ever consciously deciding to, you started avoiding anything that might put a crack in it. This is where the self-sabotage comes in, and I want to be really clear that it is rarely dramatic. It's not usually some visible act of self-destruction. It's quieter than that. It's the business idea you never launched because you couldn't guarantee it would work. It's the degree program you didn't finish because once the material got hard, actually hard, for the first time in your life, the fear of not being good at it anymore felt unbearable. It's the relationship you didn't pursue, the audition you didn't go to, the manuscript that's still sitting on your hard drive. Psychologists sometimes call this pattern self-handicapping, a term first studied in depth by researchers Edward Jones and Stephen Berklas back in the late 1970s. Their finding was almost uncomfortable in how well it explains this exact situation. People who have built an identity around innate ability rather than effort will often unconsciously create obstacles for themselves or simply avoid trying altogether, specifically so that if they fail, they can blame the obstacle rather than their own ability. It's not laziness, it's a protective strategy. Your brain would rather you never find out whether you're actually as capable as everyone said, because as long as you never really try at full effort, the myth stays intact. You get to keep believing deep down that you could have been extraordinary. You just chose not to. Except that choice isn't really a choice at all. It's fear wearing the costume of preference. There's another layer to this, and it's the one that tends to hurt the most, so let's name it directly. You look at ordinary people, people who never had a gift, who never had a teacher tell them they were special, and you watch them get married, buy houses, get promoted, raise kids, build small, unremarkable, happy lives. And some part of you feels a bitterness you're almost ashamed of, mixed with a genuine confusion. How are they doing this? And I'm not. The answer is uncomfortable, but it's freeing once you actually absorb it. Those people succeeded because they were willing to be mediocre on the way to being good. They took the job they weren't sure they'd be great at. They said the wrong thing on the first date and asked for a second one anyway. They failed a class, or lost a client, or got rejected from 10 things before the 11th worked out. And none of it collapsed their sense of self. because their self-worth was never staked on being exceptional in the first place. They had permission to be a beginner. You didn't. You're not less capable than them. You're operating under a much heavier set of rules, and you're the one who set those rules, even if you didn't know you were doing it. This is also where the self-doubt creeps in, the part where you start wondering if you were ever actually that smart to begin with, or if the adults around you just liked you, or got lucky, or mistook confidence for competence. I want to gently push back on that thought, not to flatter you, but because it's usually not accurate. What's far more likely is that you were genuinely capable at the specific kinds of tasks that get rewarded in classrooms. Fast pattern recognition, good memory, comfort with abstract instructions. Those are real skills. But they are a narrow slice of what it actually takes to build a life, a career, a body of work. The real world doesn't reward getting it right on the first try nearly as much as school did. It rewards persistence through the middle part, the part where you're bad at something new before you're good at it. Nobody trained you for that part. That's not a character flaw. That's a skills gap, and skills gaps can be closed. So let's talk about what actually helps, because recognizing the pattern without a way out just leaves you more aware and equally stuck. The first shift has to happen in how you define yourself, and it starts with separating your identity from your output. Right now, your internal sentence is probably something like, "I am someone who is supposed to succeed," which means every attempt carries the full weight of your entire self-worth. The healthier, truer sentence is, "I am someone who is currently learning how to do this." That sentence can survive a bad result. The first one can't. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about lowering the stakes attached to any single attempt, so that you can actually make the attempt. The second shift is to deliberately, on purpose, do something you are bad at, with witnesses, on a regular basis. This sounds almost too simple, but it works because it's exposure therapy for your specific fear. Take a class in something you have zero natural aptitude for. Join a beginner's group for a sport, an instrument, a language. Let people watch you be mediocre. Every time you survive being visibly average and nothing catastrophic happens, you're gathering evidence that contradicts the old belief that your worth depends on effortless excellence. The researcher Angela Duckworth, who spent years studying what she calls grit, found that long-term achievement correlates far more strongly with sustained effort through difficulty than with raw talent. People who succeed over decades aren't the ones who never struggled. They're the ones who got comfortable struggling in public and kept going anyway. The third shift is to lower the bar for starting things, deliberately and on purpose. You are waiting for certainty that doesn't exist and never will. Nobody launches a business, starts a creative project, or changes careers with a guarantee of success. What separates people who move forward from people who stay frozen isn't being sure of success. It's a tolerance for not knowing the outcome. So, give yourself permission to start something badly. Send the rough draft. Launch the ugly version. Apply for the job you're only 60% qualified for. The goal isn't to do it perfectly. The goal is to put an end to waiting for permission that was never going to come. And the fourth thing, maybe the most important one, is to actively grieve the idea of the version of you that was supposed to become effortlessly great. That version was never real. It was a story other people told about a child even before that child had done anything at all. You're allowed to let it go without treating that as a failure. What you get in exchange is something better than being the gifted one. You get to be a person who is actually, currently, building something real, one imperfect attempt at a time, the same way everyone who has ever built a meaningful life has done it. The pressure you've been carrying was never a fair deal to begin with. Nobody should have to live their entire life trying to justify a compliment they received when they were 9 years old. You're allowed to put it down. You're allowed to be a beginner. And letting yourself be a beginner lets you actually start moving again. If any part of this felt uncomfortably familiar, that discomfort is useful. It means you finally recognize the pattern for what it is. And once you can see it clearly, it stops running quietly in the background and it finally starts to loosen its grip.